All right, calling together the Finance Committee for the September 1st, 2022 meeting. We have a quorum present with two absences of Supervisors Merlino and Runyon. Motion to approve the minutes of prior committee meetings. Supervisor Bruno, Supervisor Driscoll on second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Action agenda items. Before we get in, I'm just would, for expediency, is there any privilege of the floor that would like to start now? We will call at the end of the meeting as well. Hearing none, we'll go right into the request for transfer of funds as attached for committee approval. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, a second by Supervisor Driscoll. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Thank you. Number two, request items to be discussed by the county administrator. Supervisor Craig Leggett, acting county administrator. I will defer to the assistant to the county administrator, Tammy DeLorenzo, who is at the podium. Thank you, Tammy.
The first thing we have is our monthly journal report. Does anyone have any questions on those? And if you do, when you review it, you can certainly give me a call. I'll let you know what the items are.
I'm good with it.
The second item, there were two items that came through the public defender's office after their meeting. It always happens that way. One was to request to apply for funding through the Indigent Legal Services Office for the second Upstate Family Defense, Child Welfare Quality Improvement and Caseload Reduction Grant. That's a mouthful, for an amount to be determined. This is a competitive grant. They don't know if they're going to get it. They simply want to apply. This is again, it's the second round. They've applied for this before and we're successful.
So we have resolution request from number 3 as item 2B, motion to bring it to the floor. Thank you, Supervisor Bruno, second by Supervisor Driscoll. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor of 2B? Say
Aye.
Aye. And opposed? None? Motion carries.
2C was, again, on behalf of the Public Defender's Office, a request to authorize the extension of their existing lease agreement with 333 Glen Street. There's no change in the rate.
Okay, so that's in your packet there to C. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Driscoll. Any questions? Supervisor Bruno.
Thank you. So what is the lease agreement? In other words, how much, what's the
It's
value?
$12,000.
12,000 and
Yep, and that's what it was, the original term, and that's what it will be for this next term.
this is a suite of offices? or-
Their suite 100, I believe, is
So
so on the first floor. It's working really, they said it's working very well for you and for them, and it is covered through ILS grant funding, 100%.
Very good. So someday when we get the old jail renovated, maybe we'll create space in there for them.
That's
Save a
right.
few bucks. Thank you. Thank you.
Supervisor Driscoll.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I recently ran into Ms. Flores going into motor vehicles, and she explained to me that the space is really working out for the staff there, as well as individuals that they work with. So it's really working out for them.
Thank you. We have a motion on the floor. Any further discussion? Hearing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None. Motion carries. 2D.
2D is on behalf of the public health, a request to authorize a contract with CareCentrix Incorporated for health services to bill for services rendered. So this is typical for any insurance contract. The health services department has to contract with them in order to be able to bill for any patients that they may have this as their insurance carrier.
Request a motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, second by Supervisor Bruno. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None. Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Tim. Request, item number 3, request items to be discussed by the county treasurer, Mike Swan, county treasurer. Supervisor treasurer.
Yeah, the first 3A, I had pulled, that's why it's lined out. I don't know if you have a current agenda or not. There was some problems with how things are getting worded, so I'm gonna bring that back next month. Item B, this is a request for a new contract with Tyler Technologies. And basically what happened is that Glens Falls National Bank upgraded their software system, and it no longer speaks with our New World software system. So Tyler Industries, who owns New World, needs a contract to basically correct the problem. In other words, to write a program so that the bank software can talk to our software. And in conjunction with that, which is item C, I'm requesting $500 from contingent. And what happened is Tyler Industries said that they would do it for $2,500. I got them down to $1,000. And then I went to the bank and said, look, you caused some of this problem. So they contributed $500. So basically I only need $500 from contingency to pay Tyler Industries to write the software to make everything work.
Thank you. Can we bring items 3B and C to the floor together? Supervisor Bruno, thank you. Is there a second? Supervisor Driscoll, thank you. Further discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you, Treasurer Swan. Number 4, referral from County Facilities Committee chaired by Supervisor Bruno. This is from the airport. Request to authorize closure of capital project H391, airport 2 new snow plows, and returning the remaining funds in the amount of $132.17 to budget code A892 reserve airport repairs project. I'll bring it brought to the floor by Supervisor Driscoll and a second. Supervisor Bruno, thank you. And I guess this came in under budget. We're
Yes.
getting $132 back. So.
Hey, better than over.
I'll call the question if there's no further discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Number 5, referral from Criminal Justice Public Safety Committee chaired by Supervisor Gerasi. Office Emergency Services, Emery Mason, Director. A is request to amend the county budget in the amount of $19,000 to increase both sides of the budget to accommodate grant award. Motion bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas. Second. Supervisor Bruno. Discussion. What's up on this? Let's see. Security program, equipment and supplies, 19,000. Okay. No discussion. Call the question. All those in favor for 5A, say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? No. Motion carries. 5B, request to amend the county budget in the amount of $17,413 to reflect the receipt of
107.
fiscal year domestic terrorism prevention grant program funding.
172,000, not 17.
Sorry, $172,413. Thank you.
Sorry.
Supervisor Driscoll on first and Supervisor Thomas on second. Discussion? No discussion? Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. 5C is from the sheriff, James Lepar, Sheriff. Request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $31,040 to reflect a receipt of grant funding from New York State Governor's Traffic Safety Committee Police Traffic Services Program. Can we also throw in here to D, request to amend Warren County budget in the amount of $985,547 to reflect the receipt of funding from New York State Division of Homeland Security Emergency Services statewide interoperable communications grant. Thank you, Supervisor Bruno for bringing 5C and D to the floor. Is there a second? Supervisor Thomas. Discussion. We'll just comment that 985,000 is a substantial amount. The sheriff's office is good going after these grants and getting all the paperwork in so that they are substantiated. We'll call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None? Motion carries. Number 6, referrals from the Economic Growth and Development Committee chaired by Supervisor Wild. First one, 6A, is from Employment and Training Administration with Liza Oschendorf, the director. It's a request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $725,841.58 to reflect the receipt of the Workforce Innovation Opportunity Act federal grant allocation for program year 2022. This is what funds the whole office there. Who would like to bring it to the floor? Supervisor Thomas, Supervisor Driscoll on a second. Any discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. 6B is from Planning and Community Development, Wayne Lamont, Director. The first B is to request the established capital project number H418, the septic system replacement fund round 3, in the amount of $595,000. Motion bring it to the floor. Supervisor Bruno with a second by Supervisor Driscoll. Thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
And opposed? None. Motion carries. 6C from Planning is request to amend the county budget in the amount of $66,040 to amend revenue codes to reflect the receipt of ARPA administrative funding for the 2022 per resolution 260 of 2022. Motion bring it to the floor. Thomas, second by Supervisor Bruno. Thank you. Discussion. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Number 7, referral from Health Services chaired by Supervisor Frazier. Public Health. Request to amend the Warren County budget in the amount of $48,624.77 to reduce both revenue and expense related to Department Code A418.0036 for Public Health COVID Vaccine Response Contract from the Immunization Action Plan Grant. Supervisor Thomas, second by Supervisor Bruno. Discussion? Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? None. Motion carries. Number 8 is a referral from Legislative Rules and Government Operations Committee chaired by Supervisor Stroud. This is from the Board of Elections with Elizabeth McLaughlin, Commissioner, and William Vaness, Commissioner. This is a request to amend the Warren County budget amount of $38,994.04 to fund year 2 of a 3-year contract with Thundercut Technology Baronis, which was reimbursed with the cybersecurity grant proceeds related to resolution number 223 of 2020, which was done in 2021. So with that, motion bring it to the floor. Supervisor Bruno with Supervisor Thomas on second. All those, any discussion? All those in favor say aye. Oh,
Aye.
discussion.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, was that a discussion, Supervisor
Yeah.
Thomas?
Is this a continuation of a grant?
Yes.
It was
Mr.
money,
Renzo.
they prepaid the expense, so they have to move it and they got recorded it each year that is intended for, but it was a prepaid expense.
Prepaid expense, deferred revenue on that with a grant then? Is that-
They have already, yes, because they've already received the money.
Yes. Oh, so we called the question. Did everybody answer in favor? Okay. Anybody opposed? Motion carries for 8. Number 9, referral from the Occupancy Tax Coordination Committee chaired by Supervisor Dickinson. This is a request to authorize appropriation of $26,140 from the Occupancy Tax Reserve to Budget Code 8021.470, Planning and Community Development Contracts, to cover the cost of the contract with Planning/Cliff and Redfield for the marketing communications support for First Wilderness Heritage Corridor. Motion to bring it to the floor. Supervisor Thomas, second by Supervisor Driscoll. Thank you. Remember these, it even came out of planning, I think, and then to occupancy tax to us. So all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? None? Motion carries. Number 10, referral from the Public Works Committee chaired by Supervisor Conover. This is Parks and Recreation Railroad with Dean Moore, the director. And it's a request to amend the Warren County budget amount of $156 to reflect the receipt of a donation. Thank you, Supervisor Driscoll. Second by Supervisor Bruno. Discussion. Call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay, number 11, Finance Committee action is required on the following personnel agenda items, which was contingent upon approval of the Personnel Administration and Higher Education Committees earlier here. Let's look through here. These are all relevant. I'll report to the board. All these were passed and we can now act on them. Okay.
5A, the effective date set of September 1st. will be
Okay, so on 5A, September 16th, let's see. Pleasure of the committee, do 4, 5, 6, and 7 all together or do them individually?
Together.
Okay, and second by Supervisor Thomas. Discussion on 4, 5A, 6, or 7. Hearing none, call the question. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Pending items, there's no items this month. Privilege of the floor and public comment. Mr. Lehman, anybody on YouTube?
Hi, Chairman Leggett. No, nothing on YouTube.
Okay, anybody else from the public or on Zoom? No. Supervisor Bruno?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Regarding and I've asked this question before over the years, the scheduling of this committee meeting, it's always succeeds the personnel. And I was wondering if we could, and I've asked this question before, if we could move this so that invariably personnel committee takes a long time. And I think it would be more effective if we had this meeting scheduled at a different time, so we didn't have to go through. I mean, if it's not bad to sit in on that meeting, but I think it'd be better served if we move this meeting to another date, time, whatever.
Thank you, Mr.
Supervisor
Chairman.
Diamond?
I would have to agree with Supervisor Bruno. Not only does the Personnel Committee seem to run a couple hours because there's a lot of work to be done there, but a lot of times the committee in the personnel discusses similar items then get brought up in the Finance Committee, and it gives us a little bit of lag time to be able to decipher what has been discussed, voted on. So, we're a little bit more prepared when we go to the Finance Committee. So I'd like to see us move it to another date, especially if we're going to continue to host a second meeting, full board meeting. And we tell the public that the board meeting is going to start approximately 12, and here we are, 12:25, and we haven't. So if the rest of the committee members would agree, I'd like to see us move that committee meeting.
Okay, we'll look into that and discuss. Supervisor Driscoll?
Yeah, I would agree with my colleagues from Glens Falls. We should look into it. But are we looking into a fourth day of meetings? Because days 1 and 2 which precede the Monday and Tuesday preceding our regular monthly board meeting, they also go, into the afternoon, beginning at 9 o'clock. It's not unusual for them to go after 1 o'clock, getting close to 2 o'clock at times. So I think that they would be off the table. Again, the alternative would be, I guess, to my thinking, would be a fourth day of meetings, which, if that's the will of the board, I certainly have no issue in considering that, especially being a city supervisor. But I welcome any discussion on that going forward.
Okay, Supervisor Seaver?
Will you have privilege of the floor?
We did.
I know you had it in the beginning, but the purpose is
That's-
obviously to be able to have it twice.
That's what we're in right now.
We're in right now. May I speak then under privilege of the floor? Thank you.
Step right up.
It's just as you're talking about this topic, it was one that I had hoped to talk about at the full board meeting today. But I know that in legislative and rules that they had a discussion and moving forward a resolution to eliminate the second board meeting because of the time constraints, I'm assuming with this meeting and personnel. My suggestion for this committee and hopefully for other supervisors is to not eliminate that second meeting, but perhaps make it an late afternoon or early evening meeting couple days after this meeting. Because the public, number one, can attend those 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon meetings much easier than they can right now when we have them. And the second issue is that there is zero notice to the public on what you pass out of this committee if it goes right to the full board. It's also zero notice to other supervisors or time to debate or research. And I don't believe it fairly allows me as a Queensberry representative to represent the population of which I serve. I'm not prepared to vote on those issues. And I'm not a member of any of these committees where this debate is taking place. So my suggestion would be, if you're going to keep this meeting, move the second board meeting to a few days, maybe a Monday afternoon, a Tuesday afternoon, but with time to our staff to prepare, our supervisors, and notice to the public so that we can be transparent and accountable, especially as legislative and rules continues to deny an opportunity for Zoom meetings for supervisors on emergency basis. I think that's horrendous and lack of transparency. But that being said, I was hopeful that we could address those issues. And I agree with what the members here today have said. And thank you for allowing me to talk under privilege of the floor, Supervisor.
No, you're welcome, Supervisor. Supervisor Diamond?
Well, what I was going to mention was there's also the opportunity to scale back the agendas to where we put a time restraint on each meeting, not to exceed an hour. Yes, it's gonna scale back maybe the agendas also, but at times we seem to get a little bit sidetracked from the initial agenda. So that would be an alternative if the other committee decides not to agree with scheduling an independent meeting for the finance committee, is to scale back and require a timeline and we move on. So those are a couple alternatives. Maybe we can forward to, what is it, the legislative committee to make a discussion, to make a determination. If this sole board does agree that we would like to see this modified or changed.
Let's see, clerk.
I don't think it needs to go to a committee. We set this up based on what the board told us to do, and we were told to schedule, 3 committee meeting days. This is our shortest committee meeting day. I'm sure all of you realize for the Monday and Tuesday after board meetings, a lot of times we're here well into the afternoon. So we could split this one into 2 separate days. I would think maybe an alternate suggestion is maybe instead of running them finance immediately after personnel, maybe we set a time. So maybe we start personnel at 9 and start finance at 10:30 or 11 o'clock or whatever time you think. That way people who are on finance.
Right.
But you are acting on items from personnel. So
Right.
if you are here for personnel, then when you get to finance, you know what's
Put a
happening.
timeline on.
But possibly just setting a time on finance, maybe
Yeah.
we can try that first. See if
Sure.
that works out.
Sure.
Reasonable.
But also it's gonna be up to whoever the chairman is to try and maintain that.
Timeline.
But that's for every committee, not just. We're running into that across the board.
Supervisor Thomas?
Well, being chair of personnel, we spent about an hour and a half discussing real property tax issue. I guess I want to know why, and I talked to the county attorney afterwards, and he says that he can't shift that to the real property tax committee because of some rules somewhere. And I'd like to know why, because if it's personnel, I don't mind, it's personnel. But real property tax and somebody's quitclaim deed has no business being at personnel.
Right, I think that's because the county attorney comes under your agenda, as does
Right.
a few others, so it's sort of,
But I
you've
think
caught
that-
them.
And maybe that needs to be separated or clarified, that it's the county attorney and an office issues and general personnel issues.
Mhm.
But if it's a county attorney and it's a quitclaim deed, that needs to go to. Should be.
Okay. Supervisor Seaver?
Thank you. Just as a brief follow-up to the idea that came up at the beginning of the year was to have our county attorney who reports to all 20 of us do his reports at the second board meeting. It would eliminate all that time at personnel, and it would afford the county attorney to report to every single one of us, which we obviously all have that responsibility to be present and to listen to assist him. I would love to see a recommendation out of this committee to go to the full board and certainly I know County Attorney Elman said previously that you were in favor of that idea, but that would save you significant time during personnel and update every single member that should have a ability to vote and debate on issues relative to the county attorney to represent our constituents. Thank you.
Since we're at this time of year, I think we might be able to weather out the rest of this year and look at next year as on committee designations and who does what when for that. And we will look into the timing. I think curtailing or setting dates for that. I want to thank this committee here for being so efficient on the work that we do here. I know it is the catch up and culmination of all the other committees coming to us. Appreciate that. Motion to adjourn, and we will go right into the board of supervisors meeting soon following. Thank you.
Aye.
Carried.
It's tomorrow.
Oh, tomorrow.
It's tomorrow, so I